to get it across the nation is amazing. Yeah.
And somewhat saddened that Amanda deserved to be there herself.
Welcome to episode 317 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland, and this is another special edition of the show as the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame introduced its class of 2025 on a Wednesday. Toronto Blue Jays great Jose Bautista headlines this year's class, which also includes former big leaguer Erik Bedard, junior national team head coach Greg Hamilton, and former women's national team great Amanda Asay. The Hall's Veterans Committee has also elected former All-American Girls Professional Baseball League legend and Saskatchewan native Arleene Noga and former Montreal City Councillor Gerry Snyder, who helped bring the Expos to that city. The ceremony is set for June 7th in St. Mary's, Ontario. On Wednesday, the Hall also held a conference call with Bautista and Hamilton, as well as family members of Asay, Noga, and Snyder. Unfortunately, Bedard was traveling and unable to take part. Now, here are some of the highlights, and we'll start with the fan favorite in Bautista. He was a Toronto Blue Jay from 2008 to 2017. He was a six-time All-Star and two-time Hank Aaron Award winner. He's also been involved in the game here in Canada after his retirement, coming to the Canadian Future Showcase regularly, doing speaking engagements across the country, and much more. But he might be best remembered for the bat flip during that 2015 ALDS against the Texas Rangers. And of course, he was asked about that particular moment.
I mean, I don't know if I can attribute it to one specific thing or topic, but maybe it was a combination of a lot of those things. And, just the type of season we had, the type of playoff we were having, just the emotion in the building, just a combination of all of those things. I think the reaction of the crowd, I certainly, like I've told many times, wasn't planning on doing anything like that. I was trying to get that run in and figure out how to close out the game, playing good defense, but I was able to get enough of it and get it out of the park. So everybody just erupted, and I guess I did as well. So
a little later on, Sportsnet's Ben Nicholson-Smith asked him about having an impact on the whole country and a moment that actually changed the personality of baseball as well.
Well, that's always hard to answer. I guess similar to what Greg was saying, I hope that I served as an inspiration to the next generation, maybe some kids that were somewhat disconnected from the game or wanted to get into it, and there was just not enough buzz around it, and maybe they didn't have access to it. Maybe, I'd like to think that with the impact that my teams had in Toronto, and obviously my contributions, we kind of elevated the interest in the game within the country, which kind of has a trickle-down effect, and I'd like to think that kind of reactivates the grassroots level and gets the kids excited back into playing. So maybe that's one way we had an impact. So we're fortunate to do this for a living, and I don't think a lot of us take it for granted, but sometimes we don't realize that our impact goes beyond the ticket booth and goes into areas like this.
For sure. And then just curious, 10 years after the fact, I mean, almost 10 years since the bat flip, when you see someone like Junior Caminero flipping his bat like 30, 40 feet in the air in celebration this offseason, like, could you have ever imagined that, given how the discussion was kind of charged? Like, after you flipped your bat, there was discussion around it. Like, are you surprised at all by how much things have shifted in that decade?
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised, but in a good way. I do think that, everything should have its moment and its limits, right? It shouldn't be like mass chaos when you're out there. But the whole premise or underlying premise of the discussion was about celebrating big moments within the game that you can share with the fans, right? And that's how I always kind of look at it. And I referenced it in the past, like it's like celebrating after a touchdown. It's no different. So I like the fact that there's a way to kind of do things while we're playing that include celebrating the big moments that fans can identify with. I think that helps everybody. So I'm excited to see that, but I am surprised that, it's getting that mainstream and that accepted, but glad that it's not seen as a negative anymore.
Our Ian Wilson had a couple of questions for Jose as well about being known from coast to coast to coast, even out here in the West.
We've talked a lot about how much of a moment the bat flip was, and how, I don't know, it just kind of helped with Canadians' baseball identity. I'm wondering if you have any specific memories or connections with Western Canada in particular, either through the winter tours, or I know you were in Saskatchewan last year as well. I'm just wondering if you can speak to any engagements in Western Canada.
Yeah, I've been to, to a few spots with the winter tour, and then I've also gone for other business engagements or speaking opportunities. I've been to Calgary, Edmonton, I've been to Vancouver, been to Regina, I've been to Saskatchewan. I was fortunate enough to be part of a mini tour that we did for a good friend's company with Cargo Jet in Canada, where I was able to hand out Christmas bonus checks to a bunch of employees. So it was the dead middle of the winter, and we were just flying on the company plane, just because they, I guess, treated their top employees of the year for me and a couple of other Blue Jays players to hand them their Christmas checks. So I didn't spend much time there because we were just stopping, hanging out for an hour or so, and then leaving, going to the next city all the way, making stops from Toronto to Vancouver. It was a busy kind of 36 hours, but I enjoyed seeing the smile on people's faces. I didn't enjoy the cold as much, but spending time with people across the country definitely was a treat for me.
Just a quick follow-up on that. When did it resonate with you that the reach and the connections with the Blue Jays extended well beyond Toronto, and you could really feel it being a national presence?
Yeah, and it's not common for any other team. Perhaps even maybe the Yankees a little bit just because of their history, but it was when I was taking some of those trips with the Blue Jays winter tour that I realized how massive the reach was within the whole country. Because it's easy to kind of oversee that just because we play in Toronto and we're always there and we don't leave to play games anywhere else. Except one year we had a couple of preseason games in Montreal, or a couple of years. But yeah, when I was moving around and we went to a few different cities and I saw the love and how big the turnouts were and the people's energy and emotion, just by seeing us and wearing their Blue Jays gear and how they supported, you can tell it was genuine and you can tell it was massive. So yeah, that's when I first learned about it.
Next up is junior national team head coach Greg Hamilton. He started as the pitching coach for Canada's senior national team back in 1992 and became head coach of the junior program in 1996. They've won 3 medals under his guidance, and the talent from across the country continues to get better. He was first asked about being inducted.
It's a great honor to the board selection committee, and congratulations to my fellow inductees. It's an honor. I have complete respect for everybody here and what they've accomplished. Insofar as the question is concerned, I think it's a really tight, close community in Canada. We're not the United States, and we're not some of the other countries that produce just great volumes of players. But I think we've made great strides, and when you have an opportunity to kind of aspire and you see a professional team, Jose's bat flip, and people that you watch every day, and a professional team in your country, you can dream. And I think those dreams create a demand and a love of the sport and the identity. And we've been able to kind of emulate some of that with our national programs, and more and more players as they achieve and they get to the big leagues, and those are the idols. And I think more than anything right now, Canadian kids can kind of identify with somebody that's come from their community almost, and had success at the highest levels of the game. So as you see that, and you directly can identify with somebody that not sort of just a romantic identity, it's a real identity because that player walked in your shoes and grew up in your same community, in your same neighborhood. It has a big impact, and it drives interest and a love of the sport. And we've been fortunate that we've had a lot of those players that have gone on and had that success, and they come back to our young program, in particular our junior program, which is makes it cyclical. And allows others to dream. So really, really fortunate for the care and concern and kind of the family that we have in Canada.
Then Hamilton looked back at his career as a whole and how the program has evolved since he first started.
I think more and more players that play beyond high school from Canada, vast majority going to U.S. colleges and scholarships and playing, and then more and more players that are playing professional baseball. And obviously, I say they get a PhD in the game of baseball when they go play and play in collegiate programs, play in the minor leagues, and a reasonable number getting to the big leagues now. And many of those are coming back, and they're giving back to the game as coaches and getting involved. As sometimes you come back and you get back in as a result of a kid that starts playing, but you have a wealth of experience that you can then provide to the next generation of players in the country. And I think there's just as the coaching grows and as the number of experienced coaches grow, and as that happens, I think development improves, and there's more and more reach in terms of programming outside of the borders and teams that are playing in the States and traveling and doing things. So I think the elevation of coaching, the elevation of knowledge from those that are coming back and getting involved in the system and contributing to it, I think has made a huge difference.
And Ian came back as well with a question about the talent that Hamilton is seeing across Western Canada.
The growth has been tremendous. I mean, exponential, really, when you look at sort of the capacity and the size of some of the facilities and the efforts that are going into to building facilities and year-round programming. Obviously, the Western Canadian League, the Collegiate Summer League, which is, filling up stadiums in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and obviously creating interest in, with youth, that are actually able to identify with summer collegiate players that are coming into town and playing in a really good collegiate league, and they can go to really what would be reflective of minor league baseball environment in many of those communities. So I think the impact's been huge, and it's going to continue to be. And tip of the cap to all those people that are in and behind, certainly the Western Canadian League and many of those academy programs that are being developed and giving kids the opportunity to kind of really, really build out their games and work at it day in and day out basis.
The next inductee is Amanda Asay. The Prince George, BC product joined the women's national team in 2005 and was named team MVP in 2006 and 2016, helping them capture a total of 5 Women's World Cup medals and a silver at the 2015 Pan Am Games. She tragically passed away in January of 2022 at the age of 33. Her parents, Loris and George, were on the call, and the Toronto Star's Mike Wilner asked a few questions about her being inducted and her legacy.
What does it mean to you for her to get this kind of recognition?
Well, it's we always thought she sort of flew under the radar. So in a way, it's quite surprising, but it's amazing. I mean, with the likes of Jose, it's almost unbelievable to think that she's going to be inducted with so many baseball legends. It's overwhelming. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, since you say she sort of flew under the radar, and that's fair, I guess. What do you think it would have meant to her to know that this was happening?
Well, she would be terribly honored with what was going on. She was not one for looking forward to accolades. She did it for the love of baseball. But of course, she would have thought this was a wonderful thing to be honored for her contributions. I mean, to stand in front of the amazing people that are part of baseball and promote women's baseball. Although that wasn't her primary goal. I mean, she just loved the game. So, yeah, she would have been over the moon.
Yeah, when she lived in Nelson, sort of nearing the end of her career, she just went to the park and wanted to play baseball, and therefore, got in touch with the baseball community there. And then when she passed away, the Blue Jays came to Nelson, and that was absolutely something she would have loved to be a part of.
What did you think about her ascension in baseball. It seemed like pretty quick going from, just making the national team to being a starter, and then going from being one of their better hitters to throwing a complete game in the semifinal of a World Cup. What was that like to watch?
Nerve-wracking. Uh, but, as a father, you always think your kid's pretty good. But then it's tempered with, is that just parental bias? So to watch it happen and unfold in front of us, it was always surprising. It was a bit of a shock to see how she could perform in the world stage like that. So obviously, we're very proud parents because not many before her ever did what she did. So, yeah.
I also asked a few questions about what it meant to the family and what it meant to Amanda to wear the maple leaf. What was it like being in your home when you got that phone call or got that visit saying, we're thinking about inducting Amanda into the Hall of Fame?
Gobsmacked. I think there was a couple high fives here. I got some airtime. Yeah. It's hard to describe the feeling because, it's the Hall. We're talking about a national venue here. You can understand local accolades and that sort of stuff, and the press was great here. But to get it across the nation is amazing. Yeah.
And somewhat saddened in that Amanda deserved to be there herself. Mm-hmm. It's just what happens.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Amanda, I know she repped Alberta from time to time when BC didn't have a team, for example, or when it was Western Canada during those national championships. There's a lot of work that goes into it from a parent's perspective. What was it like going, traveling and trying to make sure that she was able to follow her dream and chase those dreams?
Well, early on, she basically did it solo because we were stuck in jobs, and so it was just a case of writing the check. Which, for the most part, she self-funded her way, and so it wasn't a hardship. Luckily, she was such a good academic student that she got scholarships and those sorts of things that really helped us out. So
Alberta was very good too. She made some great contacts and great friends in Alberta too. So I have to say that Alberta baseball really helped her out too, to have her on the team and make sure that she could get to places to play for them.
And I know she's going in as a pitcher, but she loved catching. That was her real love. And so in Alberta, she got to do that pretty much full time. So she helped out a number of their pitching staff, I think, make the national team. They were a talented group, and yeah, she loved. That's where most of her early friends came from, was from Team Alberta
and Saskatchewan.
Yeah, and Saskatchewan, yeah.
Very cool. Final one for the two of you. What did it mean to her to rep the maple leaf? Because this is the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. She gets to go in with that maple leaf on her cap and Canada across the chest.
I think all we would have to do is take a picture of her room as an adolescent, and you would have known maple leafs everywhere. That's what she lived for.
Yeah.
She was on Hockey Canada's radar for a while too. So between the two, she was determined to represent Canada. Yeah.
And Melissa Verge from Canadian Baseball Network finished it up by asking about Amanda's love for the game.
Well, yeah, me being old school, I thought, okay, I coached her through Little League, and she hounded me to catch. And she pitched, and she was successful at both at the Little League level. So, like I said, I've talked about parental bias, which is also coach's bias. I thought, this is pretty good. There is an advantage somewhat to a female pitcher because the pressure is on the young boy. Because to strike out against a girl is, you're going to be ribbed. And that was the mentality back in those days. In terms of an individual time where, as she was growing up, there was all kinds of little little clues. But when she pitched and pitched well in the Pan Ams, that was a major point. And I said, we got something special here, you know? Yeah.
Early on in her life, though, she has an older brother, and she was just that competitive nature that if she could do anything to compete at her brother's level, because he was fairly athletic too, but they would have what they called these home run derbies. If they could hit the ball over, like just
Over the roof of the house.
over the house, that was a major accomplishment. So I think her brother insidiously had a lot to do with her passion, and just I I don't know, you know, her love of the game, that okay, I'm gonna do well, I'm gonna be good, and then of course other girls who inspired her as her career went on. So you know, there was a lot of,
well, having an older sibling is a tremendous advantage, you know, because you've got a playmate and you're striving to keep up with them. Yeah. So that was probably one of the key things that set her on her way.
Another giant in the women's game is Arlene Noga. The Ogama, Saskatchewan native was a defensive star in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, one of several Saskatchewan products to head south during that era. She set the league record for best fielding percentage by a third baseman and played more than 300 consecutive games, garnering the nickname Iron Lady. Her daughter, Arleene Noga Scott, was on the call as well and was asked about the stories she heard around the dinner table.
It's funny and interesting because Mom never talked about her playing while I was growing up, and I really didn't know much about it until the All-American Girls, or the movie came out, and then it started being talked about. So she was also, like Amanda's parents said about Amanda, Mom just did it for the love of the sport, and playing was her passion. And you know, stories, a lot of reminiscing stories about like the friendships, and she didn't tell a lot of ball stories. It was more about the people and nothing specific, or not always specific about any particular game or anything. But I know she was proud of her achievements, and she always tried to take the focus off of her and be more, I guess, talk more about the league and about the honor of playing in that league. And even though it was short-lived, she, I don't know, it seemed, I don't think she realized the impact of that at the time. And now, with the history of the women in sports and baseball, it's more of a thing.
Carolee was also asked about how much her mother enjoyed giving back to the game through various clinics in her home province.
Oh, it was amazing. And just like seeing her do it with the passion that she did. Like she never turned down an opportunity to appear at a clinic. And sometimes it was just something like being like speaking to the group of players, and like a bit of a motivational thing. Like, you know, you can do anything. And for me, it was nice to see, like growing up, I was toted along. Well, she came back and coached women's softball, and I was toted along to the games and tournaments, and we, you know, it was just like a family participation in it, really. We all just sort of went along with it. It was like, it was Mom's thing, and we all just became part of it just because.
And finally, Gerry Snyder was a former Montreal city councillor who played a major role in bringing MLB to his city with the Expos in 1968. It also became a springboard for the arrival of the Toronto Blue Jays nearly a decade later. His daughter, Arlene Kenrick, was asked if her dad took some pride in bringing both to Canada.
Bringing the first team to Canada was a highlight of his career, and for the whole family. It was a wonderful gesture and recognition of his efforts. He did, in the background, get involved with the team that was putting in for the Jays. He was consulted on a couple of things, so he worked closely with them too.
His son Gerry was also asked about some of their favorite memories around Gerry Park.
When it started in '69, we were often there with him up in the box, and if not in the press room watching the game, and it was very exciting for all of us at the time. Certainly was very new for us, because as it was for everybody else in Canada, because of the fact it was the first time it was, Major League Baseball was playing in Canada. And that continued along to the Olympic Stadium, of course, because after my dad's role in COJO, which arranged the Olympics or hosted the Olympics in '76, it was really nice to see that the team had progressed to a size of a stadium that the Olympic Stadium was. And in actual fact, I have fond memories. I think it was in '93 when he was asked to go and throw out the first ball for the game. And hence, that's the picture that if you've seen the photo that Scott has provided with him throwing the ball up in the air with the hat on. That was just after he had thrown the ball out. So it was a great opportunity for him to have done that. And I am, I think I speak for all the family that we're really happy that, in the scheme of things, this many years later, that we can still discuss his impact on baseball of Major League Baseball in this country.
Now, interestingly, we here in Alberta might have Snyder to thank as well for the Pioneer League coming to our province in 1975, because without Montreal, who's to say what would have happened? Because, of course, that first team was the Lethbridge Expos with Andre Dawson, and that paved the way for Medicine Hat and Calgary to join 2 years later. That'll do it for this special edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. We want to once again congratulate the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame's class of 2025, who will be officially inducted June 7th in St. Mary's, Ontario. We want to thank them for taking the time to join reporters on that conference call Wednesday, and a big thanks as well to Scott Crawford and everyone at the Hall for making that all happen. We are in the process of writing up a few stories about the inductions as well, so make sure to keep it locked on our social media channels and our websites in Alberta and Saskatchewan for all of those. I know I said last week that we'd have Austin Collins from Dogs Academy and Willis Samare from Going Yard Academy on the show, and that episode is coming, so make sure to subscribe or like the podcast on your favorite platform. A tip of the cap, as always, to our platinum supporters, the Okotoks Dogs, Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment, and the Western Canadian Baseball League, for all they do for us and for the game in our province. For more on our sponsors and what you can do to get involved, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.